Girl innocently says, I'm hungry in court. Strict judge's response stuns everyone. The morning in the small apartment in Brooklyn, New York, began like any other day, quiet and dreary. Weak light filtered through the window cracks, illuminating the kitchen table covered in old grease stains and crumpled papers from the night before. Laura Martinez woke up with a dull headache. She hadn't even opened her eyes yet when she heard her daughter Olivia's cough echoing from the living room. It was a dry, prolonged, relentless cough. Laura didn't want to think about her child's illness anymore, but then her gaze stopped on the bed where Olivia was lying, her small face pale, her eyes welling up with tears like morning dew quietly falling. Every day when Laura wakes up, she faces a new series of challenges. Even though she tried her best, life seemed to always find a way to push her to the wall. Their breakfast usually consisted of a cup of hot milk and a few slices of simple toast, and Olivia had no appetite at all. Mom, I'm so tired, the little girl whispered as she leaned her head on Laura's shoulder. Laura comforted her daughter, but deep down, she felt a vague sense of fear. She knew that not only Olivia was fighting against illness, but she herself was also struggling day by day with life. As a single mother, all the responsibilities fall on her shoulders, not only taking care of her daughter, but also bearing the burden of a poor family. The job at the small bakery is only enough to pay the rent and buy food, but not enough to ease the stresses of life as well as the little things she always has to face. Today is a special day, not for any good reason, but because Laura is facing an issue that she cannot avoid. A fine ticket lay in her handbag, making her head spin. She looked at it, holding it in her hand with a heavy heart. A car parked incorrectly, an event that seemed trivial but brought her a $200 fine, an amount she didn't have. Laura didn't remember where she had parked improperly, but in her vague memory there was only one thing clear. $200 was an amount she couldn't come up with at the moment. She sighed, picked up the ticket, and looked at the cold letters. Those numbers, like a reminder of a life that is anything but easy. Olivia is still not well. The little girl is lying in the room with a warm scarf wrapped around her neck, her eyes filled with sadness. Laura felt as if she were standing at a crossroads, with a dark shadow looming over the future of both mother and child. What can she do in this situation? She doesn't have enough money to pay the fine, and if it can't be resolved, things will get worse. While everything around her seemed to be falling apart, Laura didn't have time to think too much. She had to face reality. She cannot let her daughter suffer from poverty any longer, and she cannot let herself be buried in debt. She decided to go to court to resolve this issue, though her heart was still full of worry. Can she convince the judge to reduce the penalty, or will she have to pay an amount she can't possibly earn? Each thought made her feel more and more stressed. But amidst the difficulties, Laura knew that she could not give up. She had promised herself that she would do everything for Olivia, for the future of both mother and child. Every day that passes is an unending battle. Laura may not have much, but she has love for her daughter, something that money cannot buy. She hurriedly packed her things and got dressed, not forgetting to message Olivia. Mom will take care of this and be back soon. Stay home with Grandma, okay? Though her heart was full of anxiety, Laura knew she had to do this, and she couldn't stop. Her heart tightened as she looked into Olivia's innocent eyes, as if the little girl was sending her a message without needing to say a word. Mom will make it. And no matter how tired she was, Laura couldn't let her daughter down. She stepped out of the apartment against the current of time and the reality she was living, facing endless challenges, but always carrying a small hope, like a faint glimmer of light in the darkness of life. Stepping into the Brooklyn courthouse, Laura felt as if a great wave was crashing down. The air in the room was dark and cold, as if all surrounding sounds had been blocked out, leaving a heavy silence. The rows of chairs are neatly arranged, and the people sitting around maintain a silent demeanor, their eyes fixed intently ahead. Everything here has a somewhat dry and stern appearance, leaving no room for weakness or hesitation. Laura tightened her grip on Olivia's hand, trying to stay calm, even though her heart was racing. She clearly felt the attention from the gazes around her. The people in the room, those who are also facing their own legal troubles, looked at her as if she were a part of this larger picture. an indispensable part of this not so easy life. Those gazes were not filled with sympathy, but rather the cold observation of people busy with their own lives. Laura felt like an outsider, not belonging to this place. She sighed and tried not to let the feeling of fear take over her. Olivia held her mother's hand tightly. Even though she was only 6 years old, her little eyes showed an astonishing understanding. Perhaps it is the worry, the fear of her mother that is spreading through her actions. But for a child like Olivia, innocence and trust are always present. The little girl did not fully understand the seriousness of the trial, only knowing that her mother was tired and she would always be by her mother's side, no matter what. When both entered the courtroom, the glaring light from the spotlight made Laura feel as if she were being interrogated. She turned back, looked once more at Olivia, the little girl's eyes still gazing up with innocent trust. Laura nodded slightly as a silent encouragement and then walked towards the row of seats reserved for the trial participants. Judge Jonathan Reed sat above, his gaze cold and sharp, showing no hint of emotion. Known as a strict judge, Reed is famous for not letting sympathy or personal reasons influence his decisions. She had heard many stories about him, about how he handled cases with determination, sometimes even ruthlessness. Laura couldn't help but worry, not only because of the fine, but also because she had to face someone like Reed. She wondered if he would understand the situation of a single mother, unable to make ends meet, or if he would only focus on the violation without showing any empathy. She tightened her grip on Olivia's hand once more, then sat down in the chair, her eyes fixed on the judge, the feeling of nervousness like a sharp blade weighing heavily on her. She knew there was no way to back down. The reasons she prepared to present in this trial are just a part of her personal struggle, the struggle between heart and mind, between the desire for forgiveness and the fear of not being heard. Every time she thinks about it, her anxiety grows larger and she feels more suffocated. Laura Martinez, Judge Reed spoke up, his voice dry, devoid of any warmth. You are accused of parking illegally. Do you want to explain the reason? Laura stood up, feeling as if the entire room was focused on her. She had prepared her words for this trial, but when standing before the judge, all the words seemed to choke in her throat. She took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. Sir, I am just a single mother. I work at a small bakery in Brooklyn. My daughter, Olivia, is sick, and I had to take her to the doctor. I was in a hurry and didn't notice the parking sign. I'm sorry, sir, but I cannot afford to pay this fine. Her voice trembled slightly, but she knew she had to be strong. She couldn't let the judge think she was just an irresponsible person. She had done her utmost to ensure her daughter could recover, to ensure that her family could survive in a city like New York. But apologies are not enough to erase the cold laws, and she knows she might face an unaffordable fine. Judge Reed merely smirked and nodded dryly. Thank you, Miss Martinez. But we have to consider the regulations. The law cannot be easily bent. Laura felt as if she had just been pushed away, as if her hopes were dissipating into the cold air of the courtroom. But before she could continue, a small sound echoed. A familiar voice, clear and incredibly innocent. Mom, you're not like that. Olivia stood up, her small hands still tightly holding her mother's hand, her big round eyes looking straight at the judge. The entire room suddenly fell silent, all eyes turned towards the little girl. Laura didn't have time to react. She could only look at her daughter, a wave of panic rising in her heart. Olivia, she said softly. But Olivia continued, her voice much stronger and more determined than her age. Your Honor, my mother is very good. My mother does everything to take care of me. Mom can't help with this, but we really need money to live. If you don't have money, I won't be healthy. Mom won't make mistakes anymore. I just want you to be healthy. Olivia's words were like a touch to the hearts of everyone in the room. Laura felt her tears fall, but she couldn't stop looking at Olivia, the child who had just spoken words that could change their fate. The silence in the room continued, but now it was no longer cold. It is a different space, a space where love can break through the cold wall of the law. Judge Reed didn't say anything for a long time. He looked at Olivia, then turned to Laura, his gaze no longer as cold as before. It seemed that something in the girl's words had changed the entire atmosphere in the room. Olivia's words were like a gentle wave soothing everyone in the courtroom. Immediately, the tense atmosphere suddenly became strange and momentarily interrupted. The attentive gazes of the witnesses, lawyers, and those present at the trial suddenly halted, as if they had been drawn into a sweet moment that unexpectedly broke the somber flow of the trial. Everyone fell silent, and then, as if in unison, a few people couldn't help but smile faintly. Even though they were just brief smiles, they were enough to break down the invisible wall that fear and tension had built up. Olivia, with her innocent face and trusting eyes, still stood there, her hand tightly holding her mother's, as if it were an indispensable part of this moment. The girl's words, though innocent and simple, lit up the entire room. Everyone in the courtroom seemed to suddenly realize something simple yet profound. Those who once sat quietly, avoiding Laura's gaze, now began to look at her with clear sympathy. It seems that the unconditional love of a child for their mother has broken down the wall of strictness and coldness. Judge Jonathan Reed, who is known for his strict demeanor and is not easily swayed by personal reasons, could not help but be surprised by Olivia's reaction. At first, his face remained expressionless, but after a moment of silence, a small smile unexpectedly appeared at the corner of his mouth. That was not a smile of tolerance or leniency, but a gentle smile, unable to hide his surprise at the girl's innocence and sincerity. Although still maintaining a serious demeanor, Reed could not help but recognize the strength of the boundless love between mother and child, something he rarely encountered in his cases. "Thank you, Olivia," Reed said gently, his voice no longer as dry as before. "You have helped us understand more about why we need to consider this situation more thoroughly." Olivia just smiled, not fully understanding the meaning of the judge's words, but the girl's eyes lit up the gloomy atmosphere of the courtroom. Laura, although still feeling anxious, could now sense a distinct change in the atmosphere. The tension eased, and a new hope began to flicker in her heart. She turned to Olivia, gently stroked her daughter's hair, and closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the swell of pride and love rising within her. Everyone in the courtroom also began to change their attitude. Those who had previously seemed quite indifferent to Laura's situation were now turning to look at each other, then back at Judge Reed, as if they were waiting for a decision. The lawyers, the people in the courtroom, those who were so accustomed to adjudicating complex cases, now felt bewildered due to an element they rarely encountered: emotions, something they might have forgotten in the course of their work. A new atmosphere emerged, gentle yet full of understanding. Laura could feel it in every breath she took. There is something in the air that is changing, as if a cool breeze has swept through the courtroom, somewhat easing the oppressive heat of the dry relationships and the tension that reigns here. And amidst those changes, a sense of relief began to creep into Laura's heart. However, this change was not an instantaneous one. Judge Reed looked at Olivia once more, then turned back to Laura. He listened intently, his eyes no longer cold as they had been at first. There was something in Laura's story, in the way she spoke about herself and her daughter, that made him reconsider. The love and sacrifice of a mother, especially in a difficult situation like Laura's, is something he cannot easily overlook. Reed put down the pen, his hand clenched into a small fist as if to make a decision, but he didn't say anything immediately. In his mind, an inner battle was taking place. He was too accustomed to judging legal cases without considering the emotional factor, but now, in the face of Laura's sincerity and Olivia's innocence, he couldn't help but question. Could it be that in cases like this, a little empathy would make everything fairer? Finally, Reed sighed, bowed his head as if deep in thought before delivering his verdict. He was not someone who easily changed his mind, but in this moment, he realized that sometimes the law not only needs to be just, but also humane. "Laura Martinez," he said, his voice calm, but no longer as cold as before, "I understand your circumstances, and I also clearly see that this was not an intentional act. However, we also cannot overlook the regulations. Therefore, I will reduce the fine to $100 and at the same time allow you to pay it in installments." A gentle yet powerful wave surged within Laura. She couldn't believe her ears. Part of the anxiety had vanished, and part of the hope had just been reborn. Although she still has to face some difficulties, at least she doesn't have to bear too much burden. Olivia looked up at her mother, her eyes shining with happiness. The little girl did not fully understand the seriousness of the reduced punishment, but her eyes spoke volumes. It was joy, the joy of a child seeing her mother no longer having to endure so much. Thank you, sir, Laura choked, unable to say anything more than those two words. A deep sense of gratitude welled up within her, and she felt as if a burden had been lifted. That feeling, although only temporary, was enough to make her realize that in this life, the things that seem the most difficult can also change, as long as there is love and sacrifice. After the verdict was delivered, Laura sat down with relief, but her mind was still in turmoil. Judge Reed's words, although not a complete absolution, at least brought her a glimmer of hope. She never expected that one day, in such a cold courtroom, her life could change in this way. Even more, she began to feel a profound change in the way he perceived her and her daughter. But even more surprising was that before the trial ended, Judge Reed continued to ask her other questions, questions that were not directly related to the case. Laura, I want to ask more about your job. Where do you work? Judge Reed spoke up, his voice no longer as dry as before, but a bit gentler. Laura looked up, gazing at him with slightly surprised eyes. She didn't expect that a judge would care about her personal life after the verdict was delivered. He should have just rendered the verdict and ended it there. But instead, he wanted to know more about her work. How could one not be surprised by such interest? It's just a job at a small bakery, Laura replied, her voice tinged with hesitation. It's not easy at all, but I love that job. I bake and serve customers. Sometimes I feel like I'm just racing against time, but I try my best for my daughter. Judge Reed nodded, his eyes sparkling unusually, as if he were trying to perceive the woman before him on a deeper level. Could you tell me more about Olivia? I find the girl really very special. The judge continued to ask questions, not just to fill the silence, but it seemed he genuinely wanted to understand their lives. This question surprised Laura a bit, but it also gave her an unusually warm feeling. He didn't just see her as an object in a legal case. He was looking at her as a mother, a real person with her own stories, joys, and sorrows. Before that question, Laura gently turned to look at Olivia, the little girl sitting next to her mother, fiddling with a pencil in her hand. Olivia's eyes lit up when she noticed the judge was paying attention to her. The girl broke into a radiant smile, then turned to speak to him, her voice innocent yet full of sincerity. Mr. Reed, my mom is very nice. Mom always tries to work hard, even though I know sometimes she gets very tired. But my mother has never given up, no matter how difficult it has been. My mom makes cakes to support my studies, and I want to become a doctor when I grow up to help her. The courtroom fell silent again. Everyone couldn't help but feel moved by Olivia's simple yet deeply emotional words. The girl spoke about her mother with boundless admiration, without any hesitation, without any worry about whether others would understand or not. That statement, though simple, carried immense power, like a warm stream flowing through all the hearts in the room. Judge Reed, though not an easily moved person, could not help but feel the sincerity in Olivia's words. He looked at the girl for a long time, then turned to look at Laura. This time, his gaze was no longer cold or stern. There was a quiet understanding in it, an understanding that he had never experienced when facing the cases he had to handle before. Laura, he began, his voice much gentler than before. I don't know how to say it correctly, but after hearing what Olivia said, I understand that she is not just a single mother struggling with life. She is someone who does everything for her daughter. That's something that not everyone can do. I think she truly deserves more help, and I hope she won't have to continue living through these difficult days. Laura was taken aback, her eyes suddenly welling up with tears. She couldn't believe that Judge Reed, a person known for his strictness, could say these words. She was used to being judged through legal arguments, but today she felt genuine sympathy from him. This is no longer just a trial. This is a moment when she feels understood, acknowledged, and more importantly, respected. Olivia, as if sensing the change in the atmosphere, turned to look at her mother and broke into a sweet smile. Mom, Mr. Reed said you're very good, the little girl cheerfully exclaimed, her voice echoing in the quiet space of the courtroom. A gentle smile blossomed on Laura's lips. She patted Olivia's head and softly said, "Thank you, sweetheart. Mom will always strive for you." Judge Reed looked at them for a moment, said nothing more, but his eyes sparkled with understanding. The feeling of oppression that Laura had felt throughout the trial had now vanished. Instead, there was a sense of relief, a relaxation that is hard to come by in such a tense environment like this courtroom. But what truly warms her heart is realizing that not everyone sees her as a failure. Sometimes all it takes is one person to understand, one person to listen, and that is enough to change everything. She no longer felt like a lonely single mother in the struggle for survival. She has Olivia, and now she also has Judge Reed, who looked at her with an understanding gaze. Laura, I will ask you to contact the financial support agencies in the area so you can find the necessary assistance. If you need further assistance, I will be ready to help, Reed added, surprising Laura once again. These words were not just advice, but a commitment that she never expected to receive from an outsider, especially a judge. Laura's feelings at this moment are beyond words. She stood up, nodded in gratitude to him, and looked towards Olivia, an unspoken gratitude in her eyes. When Judge Reed turned towards the desk and flipped through the papers on it, Laura couldn't help but feel the tension still lingering in the air. Even though he smiled and showed sympathy, she knew that there were still many things undecided. She still couldn't believe that everything could change so quickly. Just a few minutes earlier, Laura thought she would have to face a punishment, endure another burden in a life that was already difficult enough. The feeling of anxiety still hadn't completely faded from her heart, although she had begun to sense a difference in the judge's attitude. Judge Reed did not say anything for a moment, just flipped through the papers and wrote something down. The feeling of nervousness surged within Laura, making it impossible for her to sit still. Olivia sat quietly next to her mother, her little eyes bright, but also seemingly worried. Although the child did not fully understand what was happening, she could sense the tense atmosphere in the courtroom. Mom always taught the child that in difficult times, calmness and patience are the most important. And now, Mother is following that advice. Finally, Judge Reed looked up, his eyes fixed directly on Laura. Unlike before, his gaze no longer held the coldness or severity it once did. Instead, there was a softness and firmness that she had never seen in him before. "Laura Martinez," he began, his voice deep and clear, "after considering all the circumstances of this case, I have decided not to impose the $200 fine on you. I believe that you have endured enough suffering and challenges in life. Moreover, I understand that in the circumstances of a single mother, struggling with daily life is already a significant challenge." Laura couldn't believe her ears. The words of Judge Reed were like a cool breeze blowing through her heart, soothing all her tension and anxiety. She had to try to focus to keep the tears from falling. This is a miracle, a change she never thought would happen. She had mentally prepared herself to endure the verdict, but now she has received a gift she never dared to dream of. You will also receive a list of support resources for single mothers, Judge Reed continued. These organizations can help you address financial issues and provide necessary services for you and your daughter. Laura felt a gentle joy rising in her heart, and her heart suddenly beat faster. This gift is not just about waiving the fine, it is an opportunity, a chance for her to start anew, to find hope in this difficult life. And more importantly, it is an acknowledgement that she, even as a single mother, has the right to receive help and support. Judge Reed looked at her intently, as if wanting to ensure that she understood this decision. "We cannot change the past, but we can help you move towards a better future. I hope you will seize this opportunity and not let it pass by meaninglessly." Laura thanked Judge Reed, her voice choked with emotion, unable to express all the feelings surging within her. She could only nod and say, "Thank you, Your Honor. I, I don't know what to say. I am truly very grateful." When the trial ended, Laura and Olivia stepped out of the courtroom. The atmosphere outside seemed fresher than ever, as if the entire outside world had been reborn after the tense moments in the courtroom. Laura looked at Olivia, who was skipping and happy as if she had just achieved a great victory. Even though she didn't fully understand everything that had just happened, Olivia sensed that today they had accomplished something important. Raising her hand to stroke her child's hair, Laura smiled. She no longer felt heavy, no longer burdened by the $200 fine weighing on her shoulders. She feels as if everything could get better, although it can't be said to be easy yet. But at least she knows that she is no longer alone in this battle. She has support, and she can start looking ahead. When they stepped out of the courthouse, the sunlight shone on the two of them like a sign of a new beginning. Although the road ahead is still full of challenges, Laura now feels strong enough to keep moving forward. The cold winds of life no longer seem to be able to stop her. And in that moment, when she saw Olivia happily laughing and playing, Laura felt that all the hardships and struggles of the past were worth it. She had persevered and continued to fight for her daughter, and now life seemed to have given her a new opportunity, a chance to change, to start over, and to live a better life. Judge Reed gave her a gift that money could not measure, and Laura knew she would never forget that change. After the trial, Laura and Judge Reed's story quickly spread. Initially, there were small articles on local news websites, but within a few hours, it exploded on social media. Laura's friends, who had known her as a resilient and devoted single mother, began sharing the story of Judge Reed's unexpected decision. Although it was just a moment in an ordinary trial, his kindness created a powerful effect, prompting people to reconsider the value of compassion and empathy in a sometimes cold legal system. The online community, known for its diverse reactions, has split into two camps of opinion. Some people remain skeptical, questioning whether Judge Reed was truly fair in making such a decision and whether it would affect the rights of others. They believe that this decision could set a precedent, and if not careful, it could undermine the integrity of the legal system. However, these opinions are still in the minority, as the majority of the community praises the kindness and humanity that Judge Reed has shown. They see this as an act of empathy and a change in society's perception of justice. This story is not just about a single mother facing difficulties in life, but also a testament to the changes in the legal system and the social values we always hold dear. Laura not only received sympathy from a judge, but now she has also become a symbol of a society that is gradually transforming, where kindness and understanding have become important elements in life. Day by day, Laura's story is receiving more and more special attention. Praise and encouragement continuously appear on social media platforms. There are long articles and videos sharing about Laura's strength, the path she has traveled, and the difficulties she and her daughter Olivia have faced. Many people have expressed admiration, even sorrow, for the hardships she has endured. Some people have recounted their own stories, the difficulties they are also facing in life, and they feel comforted and encouraged through Laura's story. But the most surprising thing was the support that Laura never expected. Some people in the community who did not know her started sending donations to help her with her work. These people all said that they wanted to contribute to a new journey for Laura, a journey that she would not have to undertake alone anymore. The donations are not large, but each gift contains genuine care and support. A nonprofit organization specializing in supporting single mothers has contacted Laura, offering to help her find a more stable job that could provide better income for her and Olivia. They not only provide financial support, but also offer skill training courses, giving her more opportunities to advance her career. This left Laura astonished. She never thought she would receive such widespread support from the community, especially from people she didn't even know. Along with that, invitations from organizations also began to arrive. A well-known restaurant in the area contacted her, wanting her to participate in a cooking project for single mothers. Laura felt truly unable to believe her eyes when she received these invitations. She was so used to the scarcity and difficulties in her job at the bakery that she couldn't imagine that one day such opportunities would come to her. Gradually, Laura's life began to change. Every day, she receives messages and calls from kind-hearted people, all encouraging her and wanting to help her move forward on her path. There are days when she feels like she is living in a dream. The old difficulties no longer weigh heavily on her shoulders. She feels like she has a big family, a community always ready to help her and her daughter in the toughest times. Olivia, although she didn't fully understand her mother's story, could sense this change. The child was delighted to see her mother smile more, to see her mother start participating in cooking classes, to hear her mother share with her about the new opportunities they would have in the future. Olivia, with her innocence, did not know that this change came not only from the kindness of a judge, but also from a community that dared to change, dared to believe in good values. Meanwhile, Judge Reed continues to work at the Brooklyn courthouse, but his story of kindness and understanding has spread beyond the courtroom, inspiring many to think anew about justice, compassion, and fairness. He is not only a fair judge, but also a warm hearted man who always believes in the potential for change and goodness in every person. People are beginning to reconsider old concepts of justice and fairness, that sometimes gentleness and compassion can bring about significant changes. And for Laura, the difficult days of the past have now been replaced with new opportunities, new hopes that she never thought would come to her. In a world full of challenges, a person's kindness, even if it is just a small act, can change a whole life. The story of Laura and Judge Reed is not just an event in a courtroom, but a sign that within every person lies the potential for change. And with just a little love and a bit of compassion, everything can be different. After the trial, Laura's life seemed to turn a new page. The following days were a series of events she had never thought would happen, opportunities that had previously only appeared in distant dreams. The community, strangers, and even nonprofit organizations stepped in to help her. Some people sent donations, others helped her connect with employers in the service industry, and there were those who simply offered words of encouragement. In a short period of time, Laura's life changed in a way she could never have imagined. The job at the bakery, which had always been a burden for her, is no longer the only option. Laura found a new job, one with a higher salary and much better working conditions. She started participating in soft skills courses, which not only improved her communication skills, but also expanded her career opportunities. In her free evenings, she learns how to manage personal finances and explores ways to develop a long-term career. She also realized something important. Life doesn't always have to go the way we envisioned. Everything can change at any moment, and sometimes good opportunities come from places we least expect. But that doesn't mean everything is easy for her. However, things are not always smooth sailing. Although receiving help from many sides, Laura still felt an indescribable discomfort when having to depend on others. She has never been accustomed to accepting help. The feeling of inferiority lingered in her heart. Every time she received help from someone, she felt as if she wasn't strong enough. Each gift, each word of encouragement, although very sincere and helpful, made her feel like she was living off the pity of others. Late at night, when she sat in her small apartment, watching Olivia sleep soundly, those thoughts came rushing back. She remembers the difficult days of the past, the days when she had to fend for herself with no one by her side, no one to help. She told herself that if she couldn't do everything on her own, then perhaps she didn't deserve to have such wonderful things. However, one night when she saw Olivia laughing and running around the room, those thoughts began to change. The innocent little girl had no idea that her mother was struggling with feelings of inferiority. Olivia, with her innocence and purity, helped her mother realize an important thing. Life doesn't always have to be a battle fought alone. Sometimes when we share the burden with others, it doesn't mean we are weak. Rather, it shows we have the strength to overcome all difficulties. Laura recalled Judge Reed's words during the trial when he spoke about finding strength in empathy. Although he was just a stranger, those words echoed in her mind. The judge not only helped her out of a difficult situation, but also made her realize that kindness does not always need to be repaid immediately. Sometimes it just needs to be accepted, allowing the help to spread and grow. Every time she goes to work and sees the new colleagues, she remembers the difficult days when she used to work at the bakery, struggling to raise her child and facing financial pressure. But now, Laura has started to feel that she can stand firm. She no longer felt like a loser in this life, but rather a strong mother, someone who could take control of her own destiny, even if not alone. Olivia, in her carefree manner, seemed to be the greatest source of encouragement for Laura. Every time the little girl saw her mother smile, She knew that her mother had overcome a storm, and perhaps the difficult days were gradually passing. In the following months, Laura began attending community gatherings where she could connect with people in similar situations. These people not only share experiences about parenting, but also about overcoming life's challenges. She not only learned how to take care of her children, but also how to take care of herself, how to love and accept what she has, and most importantly, how to never give up. Gradually, Laura realized that it was the help of others that brought about change in her life. Accepting help does not mean she is weak, but rather that she has the courage to open her heart and embrace the good things. She began to realize that not everyone can do everything on their own, and sometimes the good things in life come from knowing how to open our hearts and embrace them. And one morning, when she was walking with Olivia in the park, seeing the flowers blooming, Laura smiled. She knew that her life would never be the same again. Although the road ahead is still long and full of challenges, at least she is no longer alone. She has family, she has a community, and she has people ready to accompany her on this new journey. Laura realized that each step she took, no matter how small, contained a new hope, and good things could always come from the most unexpected places. She was no longer afraid because she understood that sometimes strength does not only come from overcoming everything by oneself, but also from daring to open up, daring to accept help, and moving forward with others. Day by day, Laura's life gradually changed for the better. The new job has helped her rise up, becoming more financially stable, but the most important change is in her soul. She no longer feels like just a single mother, shouldering everything without any help. She has learned to accept support from others, and that does not make her weak. On the contrary, it makes her stronger. The hard days seem to be behind her, and now, looking towards the future, Laura feels she can walk with more steady feet. Olivia has also changed. The little girl no longer worried about her minor illnesses, and Olivia's smile became brighter and brighter. Seeing her daughter grow up stronger and healthier, Laura felt her heart warm. She knew that her efforts had helped her daughter have a better life. The funny stories Olivia tells, the time she runs around the house, all make Laura feel the joy she has rediscovered after months of stress. They gradually became a model of resilience from the simplest and smallest things. One afternoon, when the two of them were sitting next to each other in the park, Olivia asked her mother, "Mom, where are we going next?" Laura looked at her daughter with a tender gaze and replied, "We will go to places we have never thought of, places full of hope and opportunity. Both of us, mother and daughter, will go together." Those words were not only a comfort for Olivia, but also a reminder for Laura herself. She had begun to realize that each step in life was not just a personal effort, but also a shared journey between her and her daughter. Laura's transformation didn't just stop at work or finances. She has started to see herself from a different perspective. She no longer sees herself as a failure, someone who lives only for the hardships that can never be overcome. She understands that mistakes and challenges are all part of life's journey. No one can avoid difficult times, but what matters is how we face them and stand up after each fall. Laura learned to forgive herself, and that was the first step for her to love and appreciate herself. Every morning when she wakes up, as she prepares breakfast for Olivia, positive thoughts about the new day gradually take over Laura's mind. Her work is no longer a burden, but a part of life that she embraces with gratitude. Even during times when she had to face pressure, Laura learned to view them as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable obstacles. Conversations with friends and evenings discussing with colleagues have helped her broaden her perspective, realizing that she is not the only one facing difficulties and not the only one who can find solutions to them. Looking back on the journey she has traveled, Laura cannot help but feel proud of what she has achieved. From a single mother struggling with everything, she has matured more, not only financially, but also spiritually. The stories, the lessons she has gone through, from the tense court hearings to the support from the community, have all created a new picture of her life, a picture with bright colors, full of hope. But Laura also understands that life is not always easy. She never thought that she had completely escaped all difficulties. There are still many challenges ahead, and each day brings new lessons that she needs to learn. However, for the first time in many years, Laura felt ready to face those challenges. She was no longer afraid of difficulties, no longer worried about things she couldn't control. She knows that every challenge, every problem is an opportunity for her and Olivia to learn and grow together. When Olivia jumped into her mother's arms after a long day, Laura hugged her tighter than ever. She silently thanked life for giving her the opportunity to change, to become the person she wanted to be for her daughter. What they have now is not perfection, but it is a journey they have gone through together with perseverance and trust in each other. Life is not perfect, but perfection is no longer the most important thing for Laura. The important thing is that she has learned to love herself, believe in herself, and never stop hoping for a bright future. She knows that the days ahead will not be easy, but at least she is ready to walk with Olivia, not only for herself, but also for her daughter, a better future starting today. Laura's story, from seemingly insurmountable challenges to surprising changes, has become a great source of inspiration for those around her. People began to understand that life does not always follow the path we have laid out, and sometimes miracles are not distant wonders, but small changes that come from unexpected situations. When Laura and Olivia returned to Brooklyn after the trial, not only did their lives change, but the entire community also began to undergo transformations. Laura's story was shared across all social media platforms, spreading quickly and creating waves of emotion in many people. Many other single mothers reached out to Laura, sharing the difficulties they faced in their journey of raising children alone. People are starting to realize that although life can be cruel and unfair, kindness and compassion can still change everything. When Judge Reed decided to waive the fine for Laura, that act was not just a simple legal decision, but also a profound humanitarian gesture, inspiring those who witnessed it. It reminds everyone that justice is not just about strictly adhering to regulations, but also about understanding, tolerance, and love. Each person has their own story, and those stories deserve to be heard and shared, not just as numbers or documents in a file. The community began to change its perception of fairness and assistance. The people living around Laura no longer see her as just a poor single mother, but as a strong, resilient woman deserving of help and support. Charitable organizations and individuals have voluntarily donated money to help her develop her business, and those around her have started to inquire about her well being and support her in daily tasks. Laura realized that when we face difficulties and challenges in life, it is not always possible to do everything alone. There are times when accepting help is not a weakness, but a remarkable strength. That action allows us to see the world with more open eyes and realize that kindness, compassion, and resilience can change not only one person's life, but also an entire community. The changes in Laura's life did not stop at just overcoming a fine or a tense trial. She learned the lesson of maturity. The challenges in life, no matter how difficult or painful they may be, are opportunities for us to grow, to learn, and to become stronger. Those lessons not only help us overcome obstacles, but also help us understand ourselves better and what truly matters in life. Although there are still many challenges ahead, Laura no longer feels the same fear as before. She no longer worries about an uncertain future, for she has found strength within herself and in the love of her daughter. The difficulties are no longer barriers, but rather a part of the journey that helps her grow, learn, and become a better mother, a stronger person. And so, Laura's story is not just a tale of a single mother overcoming hardships, but a story of compassion, sacrifice, and the strength of love. It is also a reminder to live with compassion and to continuously seek hope, even in times when everything seems to be at a standstill. Each of us can become a source of inspiration for others, as long as we are willing to open our hearts and share what we have, even the smallest things. Kindness, compassion, and love are things that cannot be measured by money or power. They are the miracles that come from the heart, capable of changing an entire life. Judge Reed demonstrated this when he decided to forgive Laura, as he not only saw the mistakes in her actions, but also recognized her true self, a mother trying to do everything to provide a good life for her child. Laura's change is also the change of all those who have journeyed with her. From friends and colleagues to complete strangers, everyone felt the power of compassion, empathy, and unconditional love. And it is they, the people around, who have proven that although life is full of challenges, kindness can still change fate. Laura's story does not end with a perfect conclusion, but rather an open ending. Each reader of this story will draw their own lesson, a deeper understanding of life. Not every time can we completely change our destiny, but we can always change the way we perceive ourselves and the world around us. And from Laura's story, we also learn that every beautiful moment deserves to be cherished, and the miracles in life sometimes come from the simplest things: a helping hand, a smile, an empathetic glance. Kindness, empathy, and love can still change this world, even if it's just a small change.